Okay, we are recording in closed session. We added two new packets to your, two new documents to your folders, to the property folders. There's a hard copy of the communication that was sent last week, and then also the survey that was completed. We finally got that back on Thursday, so it's included on the right side, and then as we've done the last several months, the left side is all the previous documents as well. I think I would just start by simply saying there's been, Donovan Group just updated the spreadsheet, the Google spreadsheets. There's been 12 submissions to the online form since last Wednesday when the communication went out. In addition to that, we've had one phone call, and it's also the same person who is speaking tonight or who has signed up to speak in public. They're not included on the spreadsheet, but it's Neil D. Simone. But of the 12 submissions, we have 5 that have indicated support. We have 3 realtors, brokers who are asking who's representing the district, and then 3 questions, and then 1 against a potential sale. So that's kind of the update on what's happened since last Wednesday.
I thought you guys did a great job with the rollout.
Well, thanks you guys too for all
Mary
of the
Lynn and
input.
Jerry and honestly, this whole group last Monday, 2 hours worth of discussion I think got us to a really good place. So
Yeah.
That was very smooth.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Good.
Really good.
Yeah, really exciting, good stuff. And so tonight we wanted Eris to join us on the call so that we could kind of level set if there was just, so we kind of know the parameters of what it is that we can and can't say in open meeting regarding this, since it's obviously we don't want to put too much information out there that doesn't need to be out there when we go into something like this potential sale. So Eris, do you have any thoughts of you and I talked a little bit, but obviously not things like, we don't want to bring up any potential names of buyers and things like that. Obviously, there's some very basic things, but anything else that you'd want to?
Yeah. So I guess my 2 cents in terms of just a little bit of input, I agree. I wouldn't mention who the prospective buyers are. We have been, and I've been sharing the information with Brian Stasiak, getting names and contacts of some of the likely bidders, so we'll be able to put the bid packet in their hands once the board approves it. I would also, I know the FAQ or one of the documents, or perhaps your statement tonight, Carrie, mentions that the board has over the years periodically investigated the value. I think that's a great way to put it. I would not mention specific appraisals, because that's just going to invite a FOIA request for those reports.
Yep.
Beyond that, I feel like the messaging has been excellent here. And what I read of, your draft statement last week, Carrie, I think on Thursday or Friday, I thought that's a good way to put it. I don't have much to add beyond that. So,
and just so I'll get everybody up to speed on what that exactly will sound like, that I'll be reading is pretty much everything you've seen in the communication so far. So it's the information that's either been on the website or it's been picked up from what we've talked about in the key messaging points or in the press release. So it's really just a little bit of background on what the property looks like, where it is, how, to what extent the size is relatively, and then also level setting on kind of some of the things that have brought us here, which is, the DLA architect study that we did in January 2021, where we had a 250-page report. We'll talk a little bit about the district strategic plan. We'll also talk about the survey and study that we just did this past fall. So we'll bring that up. We'll also, again, just reiterate to the community and ask that if they have any feedback, that they provide and submit it by going to the website that has an entire page dedicated just specifically to this particular topic. So really that's kind of it. And it's also to garner some enthusiasm for obviously what we think the potential could be for something like this. We know that it can do a lot of good for our 2 aging facilities. We have 2 campuses, one from 1888, and 1956. I think.
Yep,
is that right? Yeah.
1956.
So they're very old, and it takes a lot to maintain these kinds of facilities, let alone be able to do something exciting to make them more up to the 21st century learning environments that they should be. So really, that's about it. I've only heard really positive things out in the community as well. So I'm pretty excited. I'll see if we have a big turnout, but And then, really, like I said, I'll read the statements, and then if, anyone has anything to throw into it, but we really don't want to spend a ton of time on it since there's not that much to discuss at this point. We'll go back into closed session after our meeting tonight, and really that's about it.
Can I ask a couple questions of Eris?
Sure, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be clear, we're not to name the potential bidder. Are we, I can't remember from the external communications, are we even alluding to there's been recent interest or not?
Yes. Eris, I can answer that because Eris saw the statement. I am going to say that and literally the sentence is, and it's come to our attention that there is interest again in the
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And sorry, the question more for Eris. You mentioned you're putting some feelers out. Can I just suggest adding to the list if you don't have some of these names there, like First Industrial?
Go ahead, Julie. Who are you thinking about? Go.
And just because I've been either in the space or I interviewed at one of these companies I'll mention, but First Industrial is a public industrial REIT. The CFO, Scott Musil, lives in Hinsdale. There's a private industrial REIT called Centerpoint. I know the CFO there as well. They're based in Oak Brook. Clear Height.
Centerpoint's on the list. Centerpoint's on the list. Yep.
Great. Clear Height, I think, is a bit of a smaller player. I don't know how much development they do, but I've got some former colleagues at Clear Height also, I think, out of Oak Brook. And then there's a small one run by a former kind of family office guys from who live in Hinsdale, the Nacarado family, who they have a company called Molto, M-O-L-T-O.
Oh, Molto, yeah, I've seen them, but they're not on the list. No, that's a great suggestion. If you have the names of the people, can you just give them straight to Brian Stasiak? Because he's collecting the list. So, that's
great.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of a few local folks to broaden the potential bidding pool.
That's great.
I think Brian.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thanks for that information, Julie. This is Brian Stasiak. Quick question. If you have, beside the names, if you have a contact person there, maybe an email or a number, whatever, that would be great if you could send it along with that, because we'll make sure that those people then receive that information. And if you don't, we can do a little research and find out as well.
Yeah, no, in most cases, I know the CFO or some, generally CFO or CEO or one person on the accounting team in one case. I got to go look up some information or go into my LinkedIn and find it, but should be not a big lift, and I will send that off to you in the next couple days.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys. That was it.
Awesome. Michael, thank you.
No, just a question. So on the agenda that the public sees, on their closed session, it says say the setting price of sale.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to definitely lend itself to a FOIA request, especially after that we're in closed session. A FOIA request for the appraisals, or because isn't that public knowledge?
Yeah.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
Or it will be.
You could. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we do have some arguments why we wouldn't turn it over. It's still sort of a pre-decisional document, at least at this point, in terms of what you guys are doing with it. So that would be one reason. And then the other exception would be, documents related to a real estate transaction that have not closed. That's also an exception to the FOIA. So the one thing that would negate that would be if the head of the public body specifically mentions the appraisal. So if Dr. Waterman or Carrie were to say, we have an appraisal at X, or Bill Enright appraised the property for us, I think we would sort of lose the exemption. But as long as you don't do something like that, we have a defense in the event somebody says, hey, please send me all appraisals of the subject property since 2010 or something like that.
Okay.
So
We are not talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, just
Right.
to Michael's point. So I talked with Eris and Brian Crowley last week about the best way to indicate closed session on the agenda, and it was to go basically specifically list the actual exemption. So we had the boilerplate language that we've always used here at LT. So as of tonight, we're changing that process to actually list the exemptions. So there's 9 exemptions that school districts can go into closed session under, and this is specifically from the language.
So that's what we're going to do for every closed session.
Yeah.
Because tonight we're going into closed session to discuss X.
Yep.
And with the specific
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's actually more than that, but like appointment, employment, compensation, discipline is 1, collective
Yeah.
negotiating is 2,
Yeah.
purchase or lease of property, setting of a price. So this is the one related to this
Okay,
one.
so that was a really good question though, Michael, so that, just so we're clear, that it's exempt from being FOIA'd until the transaction is either complete or whatever, that it's a closed real estate deal. Is that what you said, Eris?
Yeah, it's either completed or it's been abandoned. Yes.
Oh, okay, yep. Okay. Brian, you look like you have a question.
No, the only thought is, of course, at the time at which we open the bids, right, for the property, that'll become public information at that point.
Right.
Bids.
So, yeah,
Sure.
so we'll know, and that dollar amount will be out there at that time.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's helpful.
So we shouldn't be mentioning anything about any appraisals
No.
to like if anybody from the public asks.
No,
No, and like I said, I think it'll be a moot point after those bids are, because then you'll know
Yeah,
really
it's
what it's
all
worth.
out. Yeah.
At least in the eyes of the people that bid.
that's right.
And wasn't there something in, I don't know where it was, but wasn't there something in all the documents that we reviewed last week that talked about 60 million,
Yeah.
upwards of 60 million? Is that still?
That's on the Google Doc. That's not something released, that's just information for the board to have
So it's
as a
not
history.
in-
It's not on the website or
okay,
anything, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was a good question too, yeah, there was some key message. We had some background information that wasn't made.
That's not part of our
Right.
messaging.
Right,
Okay.
correct.
And actually sounds like it could be like not in our favor, so.
Right. And I think, did we say that some of that was a tentative too? I thought we mentioned, because there was like, at the time when we released it to the board, it wasn't, we didn't have the appraisal back.
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, we had the appraisal back. What do you
I
mean?
meant, I'm sorry, but the figures on the survey is what I meant, the parcels.
Yeah, the survey just got done last
Right,
Thursday.
right.
Okay, what is this survey? Is this something we're discussing tonight?
Yeah,
Afterwards?
No, that was just, we had not had a official survey completed. And so back in, I think it was October, board authorized us to complete a land survey. So this is the one that we just got back on Thursday. So give me 2 seconds to open up my Google Doc here, and I'll give you the overview here.
thank you for my cheers, I can barely read.
There's no way I can read this.
Yeah.
You use your phone.
Well,
You gotta, I already, like, you gotta highlight
What, like
it.
to zoom in?
But we can say things like, I could ask, this enrollment study is so fascinating, how often do we do something like this?
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
And just, because it also
Yeah.
is weird that we haven't talked about these things.
And stuff, yeah. And it was due, so yeah, it was time for us to
Right,
do
I mean,
it.
that's kind of the point that,
Right, it's been done. Great, no, that's good, Jill.
well, I just want to make sure that's okay.
Yeah.
So really, the survey just gave us the information back that I put on the key messages here on the Google Doc, but it's, 3 total parcels. Parcel 1 is 38 acres. Parcel 2 is 31.75 acres. Those were the 2 that were purchased back in 1955 and 1962. And then a 2.57 acre parcel was donated to District 204 in 2010. So the total acreage of District 204 property is 72.32 acres. And then the Park District parcel is.
There she
Oh,
is.
yeah.
I almost didn't recognize you.
Yeah, I know.
Allison just walked in.
Is 6.96 acres was the Park District. So
Where is that on the survey? I don't see it.
it is.
Are you talking about Park District?
Well, any of the acreage. I am even looking at the survey notes.
Was that in other documentation,
I think
Brian,
it was
that they
in
sent
that
to you?
one.
Where was the actual acreage at? Because it's not on the survey, but was it in other documentation that they sent to you?
No, remember, that was, I think, something that Eris had calculated, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
so Brian, it's on the survey, but they have the square footage, which is like 3.4 million square feet, and then they have the total acreage, which is like 79.4 digits. That's for the overall site, but the Park District owns about 10% of it. So I just calculated the dimensions for each of the 5 parcels, 2 of which are owned by the Park District, and that's where those numbers came from.
So it's that parcel right on Willow Springs Road, right in the middle. Is the Park
Because I know
District.
sometimes the surveys have them written out, but that was just,
Yeah.
You said it's about 9 acres?
6.96.
Six.
Yeah, 6.96. So District 204 owned is 72.32.
Now, is that what our appraisal is based on? Is that 72.32, or was it
Well, actually,
the
the
acres of the Park District
it was.
too?
The actual appraisal combined the two. So that's why on the key messages, because the appraisal came back combining both, like all the parcels, and it was 65 million. So at Eris's suggestion, we prorated that to in excess of 60 million because of the way the appraisal was done.
And the appraisal was done that way because we got the proposal from Bridge, which was for the entire, let's call it 80-acre parcel. And in order to do an apples to apples, Bill Enright appraised what Bridge had made their offer on, which was the full acreage. But he said in his appraisal, 2 of these parcels are actually owned by the Park District. So he identified that.
Right, okay. And we haven't heard anything negative from the Park District.
I got a question today. So the executive director emailed me today asking if the board had received a specific offer or if they were just considering a sale based upon considering a sale.
Oh,
I've not
okay.
responded to that yet. So.
I'm sorry, Kiri, I may have missed some of this. Were you, in terms of the open session tonight, encouraging just brief commentary, if much at all, or were you anticipating a bit of discussion amongst the board members, or is it anything, whatever happens, happens?
Sure. Actually, no, I mean, I think there isn't a ton, I think, for us to really discuss at this point. We've put everything out there in communication and on the website. So really, like I said, I'm just going to read this statement. If anyone wants to weigh in, or if they have anything to add as far as, how they feel about it, or if they're excited about it, and obviously the opportunity potential, that would be helpful. But I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time. We're not going to go around the room and ask everybody to kind of weigh in and that kind of thing at this point.
Do you want us to, though? Do you want us to say something? What is the best plan?
I'm happy to, I've got some thoughts kind of
Sure. Yeah, Julie,
in my head.
if you've
Yeah.
got a few things that you want to add, organically, again, not everyone has to say something. We don't need to spend
Got
a
it.
lot of time talking about it.
I mean, I don't know that how much support or not, that we have for this right now at this point, because we say we're exploring.
Sure.
And so, like, if we already have our minds made up,
Right.
like,
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
that just invites itself for even
Sure.
further scrutiny.
Yes.
And
That's
so
fair.
I think maybe from the CASARDA study is where the board can, just a suggestion, has a lot of more latitude in discussion about the use of why that property was
Right.
originally purchased, and like the need or not to
Right.
have another campus, and based upon the CASARDA study and the history of that. And so that, I don't know, that's
No, I think that's valid. Yeah.
because that gets into
Right.
maybe a setup of that, okay, the property may not be useful, and then the board can explore, like, if it is reasonable for the board to look at, potential sale.
And that board exploration, just so I'm clear, will be done in closed session, for example, later tonight? Or is it an open session board exploration exercise?
Well, we were talking about that. Yeah, I think that's going to be something that we'll discuss what those next steps look like during closed session, so that we can figure out what that.
Okay. My only concern is that I thought, and I'm fuzzy memory, but I thought 2 weeks ago when we talked, it was going to move pretty quickly from this point on. So my only concern is if there's not a ton of discussion amongst us in the open forum tonight, I don't know when there would be, and
Yeah.
we may be kind of moving quickly. But I also may have some of my dates, some of those future milestones mixed up in my head.
No, I think that's valid, Julie, and I feel the same way, that I think that would be something that we should discuss. Obviously time is not great right now, so I'd like to have a discussion about that at the second half of our closed session to talk about how we feel about that timing.
Right. Oh, okay.
You know?
Well, and this gets at kind of, I talked to Carrie today, and this kind of gets at, kind of where I was trying to express some of my concerns that, like, it is, if we move swiftly and we're saying we're exploring it, and then all of a sudden the next thing we come to is with a resolution to do it, it looks sus,
Yeah. So now I'm torn.
Yeah. So.
I know.
Carrie, but this is where I was coming at you with kind of like, the topic, the discussion, and Eris, please weigh in, but the discussion of information related to the sale will continue amongst the board in closed session, and the board will, when appropriate, discuss or more details in public about the process if the board decides to pursue this or whatever. You know what I mean? Just a restatement that to help people understand why we're not talking more about it.
Right.
Because it's still privileged under closed session. That's so I don't know if you want.
So Eris, to Dawn's point at the end of my statement, could we talk? Could I say something about the board is going to continue conversations during closed session, and when it's appropriate, we'll come back to the community with more discussion?
I think that'd be fine, absolutely. You can say, you're still investigating, doing your due diligence, something like that.
Okay.
And will we have a chance as a board to have that outward discussion or open discussion?
With our, in open meetings, you mean?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, board can discuss that at any meeting.
So, I'm sorry.
No, okay.
I know in part of this, there was like community, like kind of a forum or something that was sort of put in the PR kind of plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Isn't that appropriate to have before the board like sets a resolution? But I know the timing, when we have the holiday and everything, when that was like slated, I don't know that we have that. Because then the board can say that we had a forum to address this with the community to get broader input so that it wasn't so clickety-click so fast, and to get that versus us, like Donna saying, like maybe making that decision. We've already kind of made that decision and gone to that next step without really getting that community input. While I appreciate the site, it's great. I think there needs to be a public notice further of like a gathering and who shows up.
Yeah, almost like a forum.
Right.
Like a forum of the board
To discuss.
to discuss the Willow Springs, to let people come and share their opinions, and then after that, to your point, we can say that we.
I would agree with that. Can we just because of the timing, can we talk about that?
Yeah, no, I was
detail
just
the
there.
second half for sure.
Let's
Let's talk about what that plan looks like. That'd be great. Okay, cool. All right, guys. It's 6:27, so I think we should start letting people in.
So Julie, if you can stay on the line,
Yep.
and then Eris, we're going to head back into open session, so we'll call you back a little later on.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Talk to you in a
Eris.
bit. Bye.
Appreciate it. Okay, great. Is there a motion then to adjourn our closed session and move into open session?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. All in favor?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Let's let people in.